First, I just wanted to say, hey man, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited to see your hot take to this. That's going to be really interesting for me.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I'm gonna come in and blow your mind a little bit and say something about Jaws that you've never heard before. And the amazing thing is, in all the times you watched it, I'm hoping I can say something that will make you see it anew, even though you've seen it like how many times?
Oh, it's hundreds.
Hundreds of times.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that because I might not look at it in the same way you do with like you're looking at themes and you're looking at all this stuff. Like I've read the book, which I don't like, but like
Okay.
I don't even think themes between the book and the novel can even have a crossover, to be honest.
On the plus side, I wanted to tell you, yeah, I'm excited also though for my Cinefest screening coming up. So that's tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes, this is the
Yeah.
the one tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow in the afternoon.
I'm still not 100% if I can go or not. I didn't get the tickets as of yet.
Swing by, see the
I'll
screening.
try. Can
Okay,
I
I
can
could
I can
tell you.
I can I can I bring my computer there and do work during the screen? I'll bring my laptop and my hard drives, and I'll just
All
sit
right.
there quietly doing it. And then when
Okay.
your film comes on, I'll give it 20 minutes, and then I'll go right back.
Okay, I see. Message received.
They don't chase clout, they just chase the lore. Dig scenes that the mainstream ignores. Where light fights dark in a fabled war. Yeah, the truth gets told when the movie's born. I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit. The blade through the credits, a frame they embedded. Light in the distance, persistence poetic. The dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic. No stunt doubles, I tumble through trap fights. The script's in my soul, I control when my track spikes. Whisper in a reel, I reveal with the black light. The dark is a canvas that I carve with the flashlight. Call it a war cry, a cinematic spark. A puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art. It's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
So even amongst all the craziness, I this week I did sit down and fired up Jaws and gave it a rewatch because I hadn't seen it in a really long time. So for me it was a refresher, and it really was like, how do I feel about this movie now? Because I hadn't seen it in a long time. So I know you didn't rewatch it, right? Throwing you under the bus a little bit.
So, did I rewatch? I went and I watched. Um, I could definitely didn't watch it beginning to end. I could say that. I watched some of my one shot favorites in it just to see a little thing, and then I had you running through my head. The only reason I even went back to watch it a little bit because you kind of nettled me with like, "Hey, you need to rewatch it." I'm like, Andrew, I've seen it hundreds of times. I've memorized it. I
Yeah,
could I could say every
yeah,
line in the film. I know it so well, and
yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I watch it again in this type of way. I don't know. So I started watching, one of the documentaries in the original DVD that I always liked, and I rewatched that like 1,000 times when I was a kid, as well. So, I I didn't. I even have the original, not even just the trailer memorized. I have the trailer that I recorded off of VHS tape back in the early 90s when it was going to be rerun on TV. And it still had the Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, and Robert Shaw in Jaws. Like I pretty much know everything about the film. I mean, I'm in Facebook Jaws groups. I almost commissioned a guy from Brazil who was making orcas himself to actually like make one for me and purchase it a couple years back. Like I'm definitely deeply obsessed with this film. Sorry for the long answer on that one. I know I didn't rewatch it from beginning to end in the past week.
Yeah. To me, the idea of rewatching is like, even if it's a movie you're familiar with, as the person that you are now, even a movie like Jaws, because and I understand a movie like Jaws, maybe you've seen it, over 100 times. I mean, to that degree, it's like, okay, of course, you're so familiar with the film, you're probably not going to change your opinion in any way at this point. But for me, the idea of rewatching, especially for films that are older that you haven't seen as much, would be like the discovery of how do I feel about this movie now.
Oh
And
yeah, I mean, to give you context, I watched it 2 months ago. Like that was the last time that I watched
oh,
it.
okay, so that's okay. Okay, so that's really recent.
Yeah, I watch it maybe 12 times a year, you know, like it's
Okay, once a month.
pretty
Or
much.
or 1 month is like 6 times, and then you disperse it throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll just have it on the background when I'm editing and it's just on repeat. It's
Okay,
kind of like
wow.
The Shining for me in that level. I don't know if I've seen The Shining more or Jaws more, to be honest with you. They're really close. I mean, I taped it on cassette tape, and I used to listen to it in my headphones in high school.
The audio.
The audio, I just listened to it because I knew all the shots, so I just listened to the audio over and over.
Oh wow, the audio would play. You picture it in your head, and you know what all the shots are as it goes. That's great.
Oh yeah.
And Greg, did you know that this year, actually, I didn't know this, I just heard this. It's the 50th anniversary of
Yeah, they're gonna have a
Jaws.
big get together at Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah. So it's the perfect time to talk about the movie. I haven't seen the movie in a very long time. It's been a number of years. This viewing for me really was a discovery. I thought something while watching it that I'd never thought before. And I think I'm going to be able to bring something to the table here. And I think I'm going to blow your mind. So we'll see.
I look forward to it.
Uh, I had said that each person who picks a film, so we switch off picking each week, and I had said that the person who picks the film should explain why they picked the film. And then, of course, Greg says, no, you should guess why I picked the film. You have a twist.
Let's
Yeah.
see where that goes. Yeah. So what's your thought process of why I picked this movie?
Little boy Greg saw Steven Spielberg's movie and his eyes lit up and he said, I want to be a movie director now because you saw this movie.
Uh yes, very accurate. I saw it on 4:3 on television, cropped. I had no idea what widescreen was at the time, and I just saw it on a, television in the living room. And I had I can't remember if I recorded it the first time I saw it because I used to just record things when they were coming on, like a movie was going to come on or whatnot. But I had a VHS recording of this off TV where you'd have to fast forward through all the commercials and rewatch it over and over. And I remember they had like a Freddy Krueger TV advertisements for a TV show that was coming out. I kept having to fast forward through that. So that was one of the recordings that I had of it. And I watched it over and over. And then I had a small little Fisher Price video recorder that would record these little silver cassette tapes. And I always played in like the bathtub when I was a kid. So I'd seen Jaws really young. I always played in the bathtub with my toy boat, and I had a toy shark, and I had three little Lego men, and they were on the boat. And on the back of the boat, there was the little chair that Quint would sit in. I had a fake little fishing pole, and every time I got in the bathtub, the shark would jump up like at the end and sink the boat and the whole thing. And I'd made a pulpit at the end of the little boat. So I was a little psychopathic child wanting to replay the second half of Jaws over and over in the bathtub. And then I took the Fisher Price camera and I brought it to the kitchen table, and I would try to do my own little stop motion version of playing Jaws on the kitchen table. So yeah, it was one of the movies that made me want to make movies. And that's when I liked the fact of I didn't like the I love the actors of it, but I responded to like somebody put this thing together and somebody made this, and when I got the little camera, I was like, oh, I can try to make the same type of thing. And that was my venture into that process.
Okay. It inspired you to pick up a camera and to start experimenting with shots and filmmaking.
Yes, big time.
And what was it about this particular movie? Because I hear this from filmmakers of this generation, of our generation, that of course this is an incredibly influential movie. What was it for you? What you think about this particular film, as opposed to another film of that era?
For me, from the kid mindset, I when I was really young, really liked just the second half of the movie. I just liked when there's three guys out in the water, you couldn't see land anywhere, and there was this scary thing below the surface of the water that they're all fighting against. And then they had their weird dynamic where these three guys are very different. So there was a lot of that. And then you have this moment where they're all singing together show me the way to go home. And I was just like, that was a very unifying moment. And then they get pulled apart again and then back together where they've got to, you got any better suggestions? And they've got to get together and work together to try to get this unseen thing that they all have this common goal. And I think there's just, as a little kid, you just like it because you're like, oh, they're out there on the water and they're, what is that? What is that big thing that's going on? I think when I watched it enough, it just became so familiar. And then I just liked watching it over and over, like very soothing.
Do you feel like that this film, even now as an adult, you still love the movie? Do you feel like it kind of the influence of the filmmaking was brought into your adult life? So it's almost like, your love for the film goes from a more childlike love to a more adult love, where now it's about the craftsmanship of the filmmaking.
Yeah, I mean, the appreciation for the film and the actual craftsmanship of it, 100%. But I started getting that even in my teen years. Like when you're a kid, you watch it for one way, then you really start watching and studying the shots as you get a bit older, and then you start really realizing. And then when I started looking at, the making of the film in my teen years as well, and like what he went through, and now I even have more of an appreciation for that of going like the amount that they have the whole documentary, the shark isn't working, and then the fact of like the amount of downtime that they had on that film. And then you look at other sequences within the film, like even something very small, such as like Brody sitting there, with his son, and they're mimicking each other's hand movements, and like that came from some of the little bit of downtime that they had. And Roy Scheider was just playing around with the kid, had that little moment, went over to Steven when Steven was in the kitchen area, and just said, "Hey, come watch this," and then he acted that out for him, and then he's just okay. That just becomes part of the scene. That just becomes part of and it's a great part of the movie because nowadays you wouldn't see that in the film. They just cut it out. They'd be like, "This is boring. Move on. Get to the next thing."
Yeah, I did notice that time watching it that a lot of those little moments really are wonderful and really do elevate, of course. Right at the very beginning, I noticed that once it cuts to Brody and his wife in bed, the very first opening shot of them, it starts on the wife. She's in bed, and I think the camera moves over to the window. And just something about the
Starts on the
tone,
window,
just
and then he sits up into the frame.
right. Yes, yes, yes.
Don't test me. Don't test me on this movie.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just thought the tone is wonderful, and then of course, yeah, it extends into those moments like you're saying with him and the son. And I don't know, I just like Spielberg has always had. It's like one of his great strengths is there's something about it that feels heightened and movie like, but then also somehow real. Like you feel like this is a real husband and wife. It's a real kid. It's a real family. Just something about the way he stumbles out of bed and he's sleepy, and it's like you just really believe it.
And that's one of the handheld shots that they have going through the house when he's going in the cab, not too far from the yard. How's that sound? Like you're from New York.
Right.
And it's a
Yes.
very interesting handheld movement that that would just be, I mean, in his later years, at Munich years after, especially after he loosened up his style, after 1993, he might have, decided to do it handheld anyway. But I think back then, if it was, if Steadicam was around, he might have used that. But he likes using the dolly anyway. So, might have done it there, but that specific camera movement, hey, we're going handheld on this, and I don't know. But I think what you mentioned about things being so real, like he encapsulated that family feel, and then he took that same type of thing and did almost every movie he does, but specifically, there's moments of that family that remind me very much of E.T., even though E.T. comes from a broken house. There's that realism of the dynamic of that family. You feel very much. It's like Brody, the wife, the kid comes in. I feel like I was bit by a vampire. And he's like, you kids have been playing on the swings again. Like every little thing. And he's always got something else, like the phone, and then the phone's not working. And then this, he's keeping that activity going on that keeps you like super intrigued into each little moment of what's going on with each one of the characters.
Totally agree.
What are we going to get into Andrew's side of this movie? 'Cause that I find more interesting. And I think the audience kind of needs to know this so that you and I haven't talked about this film. We don't know really. You know that I like it because I picked it, but we haven't talked about the film, and that's why we're kind of doing this. We're like, oh, okay, let's put it, let's record this.
It was a movie I always liked. Maybe there was a time in my life when I did love it, and I would actually say I loved this movie. But it was never a movie that really like clicked with me. There are other Spielberg movies that I like more and that I love more. Close Encounters is one of our picks coming up. I said that was my favorite.
Is that
But
that's your favorite? Yeah, I forgot you said
yeah,
that.
yeah. This movie, I will say though, this viewing of the film gave me more appreciation for the movie than I've ever had. And that happens a lot to me now. Is that, there's a movie I'll know when I was a kid and I'll think, oh yeah, I like that movie. And then I'll go back and rewatch it now and I'll just be blown away and say, I can't even believe what that filmmaker achieved, because now I understand how the level of difficulty, and I appreciate it so, so much. I think that somewhat did happen to me on this movie, although I will admit I had an experience this time where I think the movie has a great beginning, starts strong, drags a little bit in the middle. That's my opinion. I actually have an in point and an out point that I'd like to cut out, and I'll get
Yeah,
your opinion on
what is your middle? I'm interested in that.
that. You know what I think? I actually think I'm pretty riveted by the movie through the scene where they catch the tiger shark, and then they go at nighttime to cut the stomach open to see if there's the human remains inside. And then Hooper says, we need to go out on the boat and, like, actually look. What are they looking for?
Oh, they're looking for Ben Gardner's or no, they find Ben Gardner's boat. But he said that they're this is oh man, here we go with the line. I want to be able to get it right, but he's basically saying it's territorial. It's got territoriality, and it's out there at night. So and he goes, oh, we're gonna go out on the water. And he goes, we're sure as hell not gonna find it on land.
Right, right. And while I think that that's kind of a fun sequence in a way, I'm sure there are people that love that sequence. I just feel like in the context of the film, for me watching it, when it got to that point, I just thought, I'm ready for the story to really be moving forward, because so much of the story is, should we shut down the beach? And, like, there's so much debate back and forth. And I thought, I want that as a viewer in 2025. I mean, we're talking about a 50-year-old movie. As a viewer in 2025, I want the story to move a little bit faster.
It's interesting because that one scene when they go out there together, it's very character driven about how Brody and Hooper interact, because Brody's getting drunk in front of him. Before that, they were just, they were very holding their cards pretty close to the chest of what's going on. And that one scene is Brody's letting things down, and, Hooper's sitting there eating pretzels, and, he's fucking, and I mean, one man can make a difference. So there's a little bit of that. And then is that the part that's kind of throwing you down? Or when they get to the boat and then they go underneath and it takes a while there, is that?
Yeah, I'm sure that scene you probably couldn't cut it. If you actually did cut it out, it probably, I'm assuming it would affect the movie. And, again, I haven't studied this closely. With editing type of stuff, you always just have to try things, cut it, watch it, see if it works. But I felt like
the big plot point in that is they find the shark tooth, and then they're able to bring that to the mayor, and they're able to basically say, like, hey, we need to close down the beach because of this thing. It would be hard to cut. Getting the tooth would be, I get what you mean.
Okay,
yeah.
So my suggestion is cut out the scene with the mayor as well.
Okay, we've got a problem here, Houston.
Here's what I want. Okay,
go. Tell me what you want.
The last shot of this sequence should be the tin can gets thrown out of the tiger shark. They're still pulling the stuff out of the stomach of the tiger shark. And Hooper kind of pushes back, and he's sitting down, and he's all wet, and he's all, disgusting. And I don't forget the last line of that moment, but they basically say, like, okay, we still have a problem on our hands because we didn't get the right shark. I want it to cut from that moment to all the people arriving for the 4th of July holiday. And now there's another beach sequence where they're worried about the shark.
Yeah, that's a great montage. That's a great montage sequence too. Yeah,
because what's in between there is Hooper says, let's go out on the water. They get the jump scare underneath the boat. Then they talk to the mayor again. The mayor says the same thing that he said before. Nothing really changes. It's really like we're waiting for them to go and hunt the shark. Like, we know they're not going to get the right shark. We're waiting for them to hunt the shark. So I'm like, as a viewer in 2025, I'm like, let's get to that faster. And the beach sequences are great. Like, that first beach sequence, with the Hitchcock zoom and everything, of course, is
Oh,
like one of
Alex
the best.
Kintner being killed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the Kittner boy. I mean, of course, that's like one of the best movie sequences ever. And so that one's so good. And then the second one that kind of serves more as the fear of like the fear is really building amongst the people and it's affecting everybody and people are scared to go in the
And
water.
Brody's, that's when it comes after Brody's son. That's to makes it super personal to him.
Right. And that's when it escalates. So now it gets the stakes are elevated and now he's got to go kill the thing because now it's getting personal.
Well, that's Jaws Part 4, Jaws the Revenge. We don't need to go into that one yet.
Right.
But yeah, if you cut out that sequence, you cut out my favorite shot in the entire film. I don't know if you noticed it
wow.
or not, but the scene that you're talking about cutting out where you go, the mayor says the same thing that he said before. That's
Yeah.
I think one of Spielberg's most brilliant one shots in that it's just on like a 20-foot dolly track. But the way he has his characters move in there, it's like a staged play. And the whole camera at the beginning, they just
Okay.
walk up, they do a
Okay.
dance around, then it dollies over, and it does a slight tilt up as the camera drops from about 5 feet to 3 feet to get to a low angle of looking up at the billboard where you get to see the kids who've come and painted in the shark fin.
Okay. Okay.
Rewatch that shot. That shot lasts about 2 minutes and 40 seconds or so.
Okay.
And you never notice it
Okay.
as a one shot. And that's why it's so brilliant. It's not a braggy one shot.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because I didn't even think about that. I didn't notice it was one shot. I was thinking about the first scene with the mayor where they're on the barge and it's
That's
moving
also a
out on
one
the
shot.
water.
No,
Yeah,
that's also
yeah.
that shot is one of my other favorite one shots because the camera's moving on the barge, and then when it cuts back to the wide shot, okay, you can take us back now. That shot
Right.
is freaking brilliant too, and that dolly only moves in just a little bit, and it pans right to left at the beginning, and then the characters are just moving, walking up closer to the camera. That's why I think he's not being braggy in any way with any of the camera movements that he's doing. But people like this movie so much, at least so much the fans, because each person in it is a character, and they could watch them doing whatever they do all day. Like in one of the Facebook groups, there are people that are talking about Mayor Vaughn's jacket that he wears that has little anchors all over it, and it's just the people are obsessed with each aspect of each one of these characters because by the end of the film, you can watch an entire series. And you might not understand the characters within those series or their motivations like you might if you, watch a movie and then you're like, oh, I think I've singularly defined this type of person. I get what they would do in this type of situation. And I think it's fantastic that like a movie that's 2 hours, or you could watch a series that's 18 to 24 hours and you can get characters in such a smaller period of time.
Yeah, the three lead guys, it's a great combination for sure. There's great chemistry in terms of the types of characters. And I think for young boys like we were when we first saw it, that was probably a huge part of it. Is those three characters are kind of, each one is kind of cool and what's the word, like accessible in their own way, especially for a young male viewer.
Yeah, and they're going on a great adventure, and you don't know where or what's happening,
Yeah, and what I realized toward the end of the movie is that, by the way, then the movie picks up quite a bit. I mean, I knew that was coming because I'm like, okay, it's feeling like it's dragging a little bit in the middle, but I'm waiting. I'm like, I'm really gonna stick through this, not just because we're doing it for the podcast, but also because I know they're gonna go out on the water and hunt the shark. So I'm like, show me that. And so once that starts happening, then the movie gets like pretty good again, and then it just gets to a point where it's great again. That's how I would put it. Great opening, good middle, gets a little bit dragging, loses my interest a little bit. Maybe I check my phone, and then it's like, oh, they're going out on the water. Okay, phone down. What's gonna happen now? That's
phone down.
Yeah,
phone
that's the 20. Yeah.
Down. How
That's
dare
2025. That's 2025.
No wonder you didn't like the second half of the middle. You're fucking scrolling Instagram.
No, I'm joking. You know what? I actually don't think I did look at my phone, but my wife, who was watching with me, definitely went grabbed her phone.
Okay, well, that's actually something that we should call attention to. if you watch a movie with somebody else, they can affect your viewing of it.
Yeah.
Maybe if we're going to rewatch these films, we should need to rewatch them alone because it's very easy to get pulled into somebody else falling out of a film.
Watching a movie alone is actually its own, almost like its own kind of experience. I tend to think movies are meant to be watched with a group, and I like having as many people as possible. So
The interesting thing I want to kind of talk about the pacing. How many minutes into the movie do you think that Quint shows up?
actually, I noticed that, and I think it was very quickly. Actually, I think it was about 15 or 20 minutes in. It's the scene with the chalkboard, which is like, I was almost gonna say like nails on a chalkboard, but
You nailed it. Yeah, it's 20 minutes into the movie.
yeah, about 20. And I noticed that because I thought, oh, Quint's in here already, but then he disappears for a very long time. So they kind of set him up and then they wait for that to come back. And yeah, it's a great scene. You kind of know that, okay, this is going to be good. He comes in and he gives a great little speech like right away.
Yeah, the opening of the film, I think it's paced fantastically. Like prior to that, like when I used to think about it as a kid, I was like, oh, Alex Kintner, that thing happened somewhere, 30 minutes in or something. And that's well before Quint shows up. Like you're just like, holy shit, like what is it, 12, 13 minutes in the film, something weird like that. And you're just like, damn, this thing happens really quick.
It's almost the opening scene of the film. I mean, I noticed that too, of how strong the opening is. It goes from the opening sequence, which is just the introduction of the shark, the fact that there is a shark, and then it introduces Brody, his wife, his family, and then it immediately just goes to, we have a shark, and then there's the beach sequence, and then there's another death, and it's just like boom, 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 so fast in a row. Yeah, I think similar to like Raiders of the Lost Ark, how the opening series of scenes is just so strong. Spielberg of that era, I think that's another reason why he had such influence on us, is because, I mean, I remember I was watching, I think it was The Post, the Spielberg movie, The Post. And I think I was on an airplane and I'd never seen it before. And I just remember thinking, gosh, he can even make a newspaper entertaining. I just thought like he can even take like a boring subject and make it entertaining, because there's just something about the way he moves the camera, the way he introduces information. He just seems to have this natural sense of those kind of things in a way that just continues to pull you in. And it's like a string where he just continues to pull it and it just keeps pulling you in. And it is pretty incredible. So I did notice that on this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and you saw it the way that Spielberg intended you to see it, on an airplane.
The Post.
Yeah. So that's what he put he put a press release out saying the only way I want people to watch this is with bad headphones on an airplane.
Then the plane was landing and I got cut off. I didn't even finish the movie.
Jesus Christ.
What were we talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about the fact that you kind of find a slow pace during the middle of the movie. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought process. Like I would never think of changing anything about Jaws, but it's an interesting thought process that the first time Spielberg actually screened the movie, if I'm remembering this correctly, the first time he screened the film, that one specific scene where Ben Gardner, his head pops out, and that was the first like jump scare in the movie. That apparently, when he first screened it, wasn't a big jump scare there. There was he had to reshoot the shot of Ben Gardner's head coming down, like he shot it like in his own backyard swimming pool or something like that with a little fake head or whatnot. But legend goes, or from what I remember, is that wasn't there in the first screening, and he saw how big the reaction was when Brody's chumming, and then goes, I can go slow ahead. Why don't you come on down and chum some of this shit? And we first get to really see Bruce, which is the name of the shark that Spielberg named it after his attorney or his lawyer or something like that.
Right.
But anyway, that's everyone just refers to it as Jaws, but whatever. So that's the first time we actually get to see the shark, and the audience to him jumped and went, "Oh my God!" Like they freaked out when that moment happened. So when he did that screening, he said, "Oh, that was a great moment. What I'm gonna do is give them another moment like that." So he went back and he had the hole cut in the bottom, and then the head comes down, and you have that bing sound effect. And he goes, people jumped, and they went, "Oh my God!" But he goes, then when it got to the part where the shark comes up, he goes, their reaction wasn't as big there. And he learned then, if you do that, they're going to not trust you anymore. They're not going to relax down into, okay, they're going to sit there going, when is it happening? When? And they go, oh, okay, there it is. So he learned in that when you're doing the pacing of this and you have something like this, you're going to get away with that once. Don't get greedy and come back and try to do it again. You're going to change the second time it happens.
Yeah. And you know what? I think part of me remembered that story when I was watching it. Because I do remember hearing him say that it almost like, in a way, kind of ruined the second jump scare. And so it taught him something about filmmaking. So as I was watching it this time, I thought, well, gee, do you even need that in there? Why not just cut it out then? Maybe it should never have been added in to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, for the TikTok kids, we could probably chop this thing down to a good 35 minutes. You know, you and I could get together. We can make the absolute best version of Jaws. Yeah. We can maybe even get it down to like a 3 minute, sub 3 minute vertical video. We could crop it into that, why not? Now, screw that 1975 edition that he made. Let's get him back to 50 years later. It's been enough time when we need a vertical Jaws real fan cut that goes right on TikTok.
Next, I have notes for The Godfather and Citizen Kane. I got a few scenes I want to cut.
We got some stuff we could change in there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's why I want you to watch the movies, like, now I'm going to watch it. Because I thought, I wonder if you would feel the same way now,
No, yeah, now it's going to be ruined for me. I'll never be able to watch the movie again without thinking, right here when he sits back and he goes, we still got a problem out there. You got a shark with a bite radius about this big. I'll be like, oh yeah, this is where we should cut. Yep.
Yeah.
This whole
cut and then cut right to everyone.
Let's just keep it going.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that transition would be really strong too.
It would be a really strong transition. I'll give you that. This episode is brought to you by Hal Riggins Cold Reserve, proudly serving the greater Boundary County area of northern Idaho since 1997. With grocery prices climbing faster than a bureaucrat's salary, Hal is offering you something no big box store can: time. Here's how it works. You stock up. Ground beef, frozen corn, pork shoulder, off-brand waffles, whatever you can get your hands on. Bring it all to Hal. He stores it in a deep freeze, climate-controlled, 5,800 square foot padlocked freezer completely offline until you decide it's time to thaw and re-enter society. Don't want digital tracking? Good. Hal only takes cash, gold, or deer antlers in decent condition. Mention promo code Andrew and Greg, and Hal will let you use one of his premium bins. Those are the ones closest to the generator and furthest from the back of the wall with the moisture issue. Hal Riggins Cold Reserve. When the grid falls, the meat won't. Oh, fails. Sorry, Hal. When the grid fails, the meat won't. And then Hal put in chest freezer hum lingers, then a hard click as the compressor kicks in, followed by a gunshot, and then he has call-out note specifying shotgun sound effects. So specifically, that's the gun that Hal is looking for within his reach. Who knows, Hal? Who knows? So thank you again, Hal, and anybody who is over in that greater Boundary County area of northern Idaho, feel free to go on and go visit Hal.
All right. Well, let me, if I ruined it at all, if I affected your viewing of the movie, hopefully it wouldn't affect it.
No. I don't think anybody could at this point.
Yeah, of course. But if it did, let me, in return, give you something that I think could, make you see the movie with new eyes, so to speak. So I do think there's something interesting here. Okay, ready? So the movie's going. So they go onto the water at the end of the movie, right? And the whole time I was thinking to myself, like, what is this movie about? So I'm back into the movie. I'm engaged again, because we got through the boring part. And then I'm back engaged. They're on the water. They're hunting the shark, and I think to myself, okay, this. By the way, it really that should have come earlier in the runtime too, because I mean, it's not until like an hour and 15 minutes, or it's like way into the film that they
Oh, it's
go
like a
out on the
halfway
water.
point
I
when
mean,
they
it's
get out there
almost
on
the
the
third
water.
act of the movie, but it's not quite. It's almost like if that is the third act, then that third act is very, very long. So it to me, it has a slightly awkward kind of a structure where
It does. It's
that
almost got like
should come sooner. You know, they should be going out on the water more, I think, closer toward the midpoint. That's my
well,
feeling.
I think it is during the midpoint. I think
Yeah,
it's during the middle
but
of the
not
right in the
close
middle of the
enough.
film.
Yeah, but not close enough because it takes so long to get to that point.
I don't know. I'm gonna pull the movie open right now. I want to see. I want to actually do the math on this. I think it's halfway through the film. I might be wrong.
I did think it did start to drag, but I also understand it's an old movie. I mean, you can't quite judge 1975 movies according to modern day standard. You have to give it a little bit of a benefit of doubt in that regard.
No, you are right. I'm only used to I don't actually scrub along the bottom of the movie. I watch it so much on VHS. It is a little bit past the midpoint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I always kind
quite
of
into
thought
the
of it
film.
as a clean cut right down the middle. It's a little bit past the midpoint.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
It's more of like a third act. It's more of like the finale. It's almost like it's the end of the film. You know, it's
Yeah.
yeah,
And the end of the film is
yeah,
almost over an hour.
yeah. But by that point, once they're out on the water, I'm back invested in the movie, and it's a fun movie. Okay, so here's what I was thinking. I was thinking, okay, yes, I've seen the movie many times. I like the movie. You know, it's your pick this week, and I don't know how much I'm gonna have to say about Jaws, so I'm just gonna take it easy. I'll just watch Jaws. It'll be a fun viewing, and I'll chat with you about it. And you know, I just thought like I don't know what we're going to talk about. I'm sure I can't wait to hear about, you know, everything you feel about the movie, one of your favorites. And I kind of thought I'm just going to take the week off basically. And here I am watching this fun, you know, kind of summer movie. And I thought to myself, it doesn't really seem to be about very much. It's just about a shark. It's a monster movie, right? It's not very deep. That's what I was thinking. So that's partly why I started to lose interest a little bit in the middle because I started to think, you know, what is this movie really about? It's like there are these guys, they have the shark problem. It's like, okay, it's not really grabbing me. Okay. Well, then we go out on the water and there's a scene that hit me and it made me realize this is what this movie's really about. You get to the scene where Quint tells the story.
Oh, the USS Indianapolis, of course. This is fucking
Yes.
brilliant.
Yes, exactly. And what I realized is that scene completely changes the movie. Like you haven't even seen, like you don't even know what Jaws is until you get to that moment. Here's the headline. Okay, ready? I'll try to blow your mind with a single headline. I thought if we were doing like an episode title of the podcast, it would be, is Jaws about Nazis? Question mark. Okay. Is Jaws secretly about Hitler?
Here we go. I got to sit down for this one.
You ready?
Yeah.
You might be thinking, what is Andrew talking about?
Well, it's not like Spielberg has ever made any other World War II films, so
Exactly. We know he's interested in the subject. And all of a sudden, I'm watching this movie, and Quint tells this story about being a World War II veteran.
delivering the Hiroshima bum.
Yes. And having this, you know, this traumatic experience. I think that Jaws is about getting over the trauma of World War II. And in doing that, it's about getting over the trauma of the Vietnam War. Because Vietnam was the war that was happening when Jaws is coming out in the theater. World War II was a generation before that. But then you had Vietnam. And of course, Vietnam was a huge American, you know, event, very controversial. And it changed the cultural consciousness in the sense of it changed the way that Americans thought about America. It changed the way we saw ourselves. And I think that that was a dark chapter for America. And I think that there was a certain amount of identity crisis and kind of like a guilt of like, are we really the good guys? And that coming out of the 1960s was an incredibly uh, difficult period for America. Lots of traumatic events happened. You had assassinations and this, cold cultural, revolution and things like this. So the shark in Jaws represents the fear and the guilt of America and, going out into the world and conquering. The thing is that when you do that, human beings have to go through that. And Quint, in that speech, it's like Quint has never gotten over the trauma of war. And I think that that's why he dies at the end of the movie, is because he can't live. He has never gotten over his trauma. And in order for us as a country, because I think part of the movie too is so much about America. It's an American story. It's about going on vacation to the beach on the 4th of July, right, on America's birthday. And the mayor of the town, it's very political, right, the way it's run, and it's all about making money, And so it's this conflict of which is more important, like morality and saving people's lives and actually doing what's right, or like just making money and kind of keeping the business running. So there's this like dark undertone to everything. And I think it basically represents America, and the shark is the fear and the guilt and the trauma of what America is doing. And I think that here's my kind of big finale of my theory, is that I actually think this movie helped an entire generation get over Vietnam. I actually think that. I think that by blowing up that shark and by letting Quint die, let him get taken away, right? The part of us that's still traumatized, that can't get over this, needs to go away. And that part of us can get eaten by the shark, and they can get sucked under the water together. And then let's blow up that shark and just get rid of all the guilt and all the trauma, and we're healed as a country. Our collective consciousness is healed. Because when Hooper and Brody swim off into the distance, it's like a Casablanca, like, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship moment. It's this moment of tremendous catharsis, and it's a new beginning. And what do they say? They say, I think the tide is with us. So it's like this new beginning, and it's like putting all the trauma behind us.
That's pretty damn good. I gotta say that. And what I find interesting is you only got that when you got to the USS Indianapolis speech, which one of the revisions of that speech was written by John Milius, who, as we know, is a big Vietnam, he's Walter. So that's interesting. I think in the end, the final person who took the stab at it was Robert Shaw himself, and cleaned it up. But it went through many revisions. I don't even know if Spielberg had Francis take a stab at it at one point or not. I can't remember. But a lot of people had played around with that. But I know Milius was deep into that. I think I can't remember if I'm remembering this incorrectly, but I think he wrote like 20 pages, and they were like, "All right, we got to bring this down." So I'm sure there was definitely a very purposeful Vietnam mix being put in there, even though he's writing about the Hiroshima bomb and World War II.
Yeah, and then the movie transitions to really almost becoming like a World War II movie. So because then it's Quint standing out on the tip of the boat, and it's almost like a battle sequence from World War II. It's as if you took one of those old black and white World War II movies that George Lucas used to kind of model, Star Wars off of. Spielberg kind of did the same thing with Jaws, except he didn't have, at that point in his career, my theory is he was such a young filmmaker, he couldn't go off and make a giant, spectacle war movie. He had one boat and he had the ocean. And so he went out and did what he does, which is make a war movie, make a movie about the thing that he loves, that he's interested in. And that's World War II. And it's, battle scenes in movies.
Which he was doing as a kid.
Exactly. He was doing it as a kid. And now he just went out and did it on a boat on the water. Because when you look at the way it's shot and the adventure of that, like one after that, everything turns after that scene where Quint gives that speech, and the movie becomes kind of fun again, and then it becomes this real adventure, and the music's upbeat, and they're hunting the shark, and it's like the joy of the hunt, because now it's like we've gone into the heart of the problem. We found out what the problem is. Quint revealed the real problem, which is the trauma of war that we as a country haven't gotten over. And it's like we go everything to that point is getting to that scene, and then everything from that scene is moving away from that scene. So that scene becomes like the heart of the film. It's the point when we go deepest, and of course it's underneath the boat, right? And so it has this feeling of being under and deep and important and revealing, and you're revealing secrets, you're revealing something intimate. This very masculine, rugged man opens up and tells you how he feels on the inside. He tells you how his heart feels. And it's something that, you wouldn't expect him to say. He says, I was scared, and he basically admits, like, I'm traumatized. Like, I had to go to war. And do you know what war is like? War is terrifying. War is traumatic. Even me, like, I've been affected by it. And then everything after that, it turns into like a fun World War II movie where it's like, let's go kill the trauma. Let's get rid of the trauma. And then it's like the teamwork. Now we're all going to team up and we're going to conquer this thing finally, because they haven't been up until this point. The shark is getting the better of them at every turn. It's like they can't beat this thing.
You just gave me a breakthrough. His opening line of that speech is, Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our sides. Vessel went down in 12 minutes. Now, what happens right at the end of that speech that stops them from talking? The shark slams its tail, I believe twice, into the side of the ship. That ends the speech. I never put that together till this moment.
That's right. And you know what? That reminds me. When I was watching the film, I thought, my gosh, when the shark attacks, this is a recreation of what he's describing. It's like it's being reenacted, right? It's the battle over again. And I thought to myself, it's as if Quint is almost like stuck in this time loop where he hasn't gotten over this trauma yet, and he's going to keep reliving it until he figures out how to get over it. And the tragedy of that character is that he doesn't get over it. He gets eaten alive. And that's how it's solved, is he has to actually die and, be removed.
The fact that you brought it to that level, and then I was just like, holy shit, Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes in our side. Boom, boom. Dude, that's crazy. Okay.
Yeah. And that's why I said the entire then finale of the film is essentially like a battle sequence. It's like Spielberg is bringing us back to World War II. And then by extension, I say to Vietnam, or really any war. Yeah, it's pretty good.
What I love about that sequence too is they're bragging about their scars and they're getting drunk together. They've dropped all of their little games that they're doing with each other and jabs at each other, and they're just like 3 dudes drinking. And it's cool to see the 2 of them, Quint and Hooper, looking at their scars, and it cuts over to Brody, and he just lifts up to look at his where his appendix had been taken out. He lifts up his shirt to look at that, and he just realizes, I'm not even bringing this up. Like, it's just like there's no competing with like these guys. This one I got the mother of Mary Lee, like the fucking and all this shit, and this is a thresher's tail, right. And he's just like, my appendix, no, it's not working out.
Yeah, see, I forgot that they're in that scene. They're actually talking about their scars, quote unquote, the scars of the past
of war.
There you go.
There it is. So
I'm
this is
telling you,
interesting then.
man.
Well, if we're going even deeper, then it means that
Telling you, man.
Brody hasn't been through war. Brody's been the scared guy who's scared of the
Ah,
water. He did not go away to war. Both of these guys
right.
have been in battle, and this is his first time out there. And now that he raises up and does it, they both die, and well, in the book they both die, but in this,
Oh,
Quint dies, and yeah, I guess Matt Hooper becomes the scared little bitch who goes to the bottom and just waits it out. And that's how he maybe he got through the war that way. And Quint was the guy going, I'm never going to put on a life jacket again. So he knows if I'm going to war again, I am going to die.
yeah. I think Brody is like the modern. He's like the point of view of the modern day person. You know, he hasn't seen that battle, that war with his own eyes, and he's scared. And yet it falls on his shoulders to solve it. You know, everybody's looking to him. Hey, tell us what to do. He's kind of the moral leader of the town.
Brody has the thing where he literally runs up to the water, can't get in the water, and he's going, get out of the water. He's screaming at the people, but he won't step into it. And his wife even mentions in there, oh, when we go on the ferry, he won't even get out of the car. Like he's almost the unbreakable aspect, that's his full terror of him being in the water. And then by the end, he's fully submerged in the water and has to learn how to swim and go back home. I'm buying into your theories here because that's also not in the book. He's not terrified of water. Spielberg or the screenwriters put that in.
Thank you. I'm glad. Yes, I'm glad.
What's cool about this though is small things like that about Jaws. I've never heard him speak about. I've never heard other people speak about. They're there, but what I like about it is that movie is so looked at, but it's not looked at this level that the way that you just made me look at it. That's the and now I'm getting even more interesting. How many more of his films are encoded in that type of way? It's a
Yeah.
very interesting
Yeah.
take.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought it connects to Vietnam because Spielberg is able to. I think it's really mostly, within the film, it's about World War II. And even the blowing up of the shark is like almost like the bomb itself. So there's kind of a callback of like the atomic bomb created the trauma, and now the blowing up of the shark relieves the trauma. And see, this is the power of movies is that movies, have that amount of influence over the culture. That's how powerful movies are. Is that because when you have a blockbuster movie that almost all of America is going to see, it's like we all have this kind of shared experience, just the same as we have a shared experience going through wartime. So it's almost like the two can become these mirrors of each other where we're not the ones actually going to war, but we can just tell that there's something different about the way America feels. And then when you watch a movie, that changes the way you feel. So it's like reaching in, it's like changing the emotions. And if it happens to everybody on this like mass cultural level, it becomes incredibly powerful.
So I think I can help kind of support your idea I think this is one of the best movie adaptations of a book because the book is, to me, it's fucking god awful. And I'll tell you the differences between the book and the movie, and I think you'll go, yeah, Spielberg did each one of these things for his own reason that kind of supports what you're saying.
Oh,
So,
interesting. Okay.
first of all, the book, oh my God. Yeah, it kind of opens the same. Chrissy dies or whatnot. A girl gets killed. But then after that, you have Chief Brody, and then you have his wife. You don't have this whole mayor thing really going on with any of that. You also have Matt Hooper, who like fucks Brody's wife, and then there's a whole affair going on with him fucking his wife. That Spielberg was like, yeah, this is all getting out of this fucking movie. There's no reason to have this go back and forth. Also, when they go out on the boat, they don't go out on the boat and stay out on the boat. They go out every day and come back every day. And they do it like 3 or 4 different times throughout the book where they're going and come back. So there's none of that threat of like what Spielberg did was so great. When they get on the boat, you never see land again. you're where the fuck are we? We feel like we're in the middle of the fucking Atlantic Ocean. Like
Yeah,
where are we?
yeah.
What is happening? There's such a more heightened feel. It's not like, oh, okay, we didn't get him today. Let's go back. And then you go back in and they like go to bed. Hooper's fucking, the wife again. Like there's all this shit. He finds out that he's fucking his wife while they're on the boat. It's a whole mess. Quint dies, Hooper dies. And there's no shark explosion. The way that the end of the movie happens is the shark is now, the boat's sinking, it's eaten Quint. Hooper, I can't remember if he got eaten or he got tangled in whatever and gets pulled down, but the shark kind of like just succumbs to wounds and gets caught, and he's coming up at Brody and he's about to eat him, and right when he gets right into his eye where he can look into his eye, the shark just stops and dies and then sinks back into water. And then Brody just starts really tiredly swimming in the middle of the night, like back to the land, or he just starts and he's very tired, and then the fucking thing ends.
Oh, okay.
And there's no USS Indianapolis speech, like none of the things that you're bringing up, saying it could be a metaphor for World War II and or Vietnam. None of that is in the book, so it's obviously deliberately placed in the film.
Well, there you go. Yeah, okay. So he added things in that make it more of a parallel to World War II and of war. And my extension goes to Vietnam because that's when the movie came out. So I think Spielberg is using his love of World War II, his fascination in World War II, to create the film. And I think the film is like a reference because Quint is, he's a member of the older generation, right? He's a World War II veteran. This happened to him when he was a young man. So for him, this has happened a long time ago. And I think part of it is the power of look at how that trauma can remain and, last that long and can still sort of creep into society and maybe cause problems. You don't have this strong, stable society if that trauma is still there. And I extend it to Vietnam because that's when the movie came out. And that was what America was going through at that time. So I think to see a film where a character talks about this experience of World War II, and then the events happen after that, where, he's eaten alive, and then the shark is blown up in this dramatic fashion for everybody to see, and we can all applaud, I think that connects to what was going on at that time, which is Vietnam and the guilt of Vietnam. You have the guilt of dropping the atomic bomb, and then you have the guilt of starting this supposedly unjust war. So many people felt it was unjust, and it was incredibly controversial at the time. There was something there that needed healing. And so my theory here is that Spielberg basically created a mass cultural event to try to help us all to heal. And it reminded me of The Dark Knight. I think The Dark Knight kind of has that similar quality with 9/11. So I think movies have done this over time, and we can talk about that at a later date. But yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting and impressive. And I thought, okay, I don't know if Spielberg, because he was so young when he made the film. It's incredible to think of such a young person being able to do something like this.
I think what's interesting about like what Spielberg did right there, though, especially within like such an early film in his career, is that like Kubrick is putting layers in his movies to make you think about certain things. But when Spielberg does it, he's doing it in such a way where here's my pomp and here's my frill and here's my stuff that you don't even consider it. You don't consider there might be some sort of bigger meaning underneath this because the surface is so cut, dry, clear that you're like, oh, there's nothing else. I'm just going to look at this like there's a shark terrorizing this place, and that's it. And that's what's going on. And you're not thinking about these deep metaphors within that. I think the reason that one specific scene made you think of that, it's not only one of the greatest acting performances of all time, but we get in, and now we're just here, and the tone is changed, and now you're really paying attention to this person telling a very deep thing, and he's like slows everything down. And the funny part about that scene is the first time they tried to shoot it, Robert Shaw got so fucking blasted drunk, Spielberg had to cut the fucking scene and go like, this isn't fucking working, like fuck this. He embarrassed the fuck out of himself, came back the next day, had every fucking line memorized, and fucking murdered it. And like after that, he still got drunk and shit, but he like came to work and did his job.
Yeah.
And that was shot on a set. That part, you think of that being in the boat. That's a rear projection behind them, and they're on a fucking set.
Okay, that makes sense.
It gives me a lot to chew on. I definitely haven't thought of each and every one of those aspects before, like the shark blowing up being a metaphor. Like yeah, I've always liked it surface level. But and obviously the USS Indianapolis speech obviously hits on a different level anyway. I just looked at it more of like, this is giving us more insight into this character and then how the other characters interact with that. But yeah, I'm definitely going to chew on that. Has your mind always worked that way where you find connections, metaphors, meanings, and deep storylines to things that other people don't see?
That's a funny question because the answer is actually no. No, that happened to me more recently, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Really?
That was something that when I was younger, I saw movies more as the technical, cinematography, shots, lighting. And yeah, and just as I've gotten older, I just feel like I've just learned more about life. And when I rewatch movies now, I feel like it is like watching them for the first time almost, because I feel like I see them with new eyes. I think this is something we've talked about a little bit before, is that I feel like the person I was in the past is so different from who I am now. And so, movies that I watched when I was younger, I watch them now and I just have completely different experiences. It's kind of new for me too, because it's actually why I wanted to do this show with you, is because I thought, I'm still discovering, and then we can do that together and discover your opinions, and we bounce off each other. And
it's like you now see not the Matrix as lines of green code, but you actually see the metaphors and the things that the directors are putting into films. I can see that in specific films and specific things, but I never read into Jaws like that.
Right.
Like that's a creepy superpower.
I didn't think that Jaws was. I thought I was going to be like, okay, this is going to be like a simple one, just a fun like summer type movie. So I was fully expecting just to view it on the surface level, but then yeah, when that scene came and he started talking about his experience in the war, I just thought, oh my gosh, that's what this movie's about. That's the excitement that I get from watching movies nowadays, actually, is like when this happens with Jaws, where I'm like, oh my God, I know what Jaws is about. Hey, everybody, guess what? Jaws is really about this. And I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. It's exciting. It becomes like a discovery.
This episode is brought to you by Dusty's Towing and Recovery, proudly serving the greater Pawnee County of Nebraska and the 2 paved roads that run through it. Whether your truck gave out in a dirt road in the middle of a cornfield or you accidentally drove your cousin's 4-wheeler into a pond again, Dusty has you covered. Flat tires, dead batteries, mysterious rattling sounds that started after you hit something, but you're not sure what. Dusty doesn't judge. He just tows. And if you mention promo code Greg and Andrew, that's GREGANDANDREW. Now, just putting this out there, he should have done it the other way. The name of our podcast is Andrew and Greg. I told him that, but just so everyone knows, specifically the promo code, if you're in the Pawnee County area of Nebraska, just know that it's not the name of our podcast. It's GREGANDANDREW. You'll get a free can of Mr. Pibb while you wait for the winch. Dusty's Towing and Recovery. If you're stuck, we'll get you unstuck. Eventually, depending on what Dusty's doing. And then at the end of that, he wrote, truck door slams, faint dog bark, ad ends. So I think he's expecting us to put sound effects in there. But but he's not paying us for this, so this is just kind of going out there into the void.
Okay.
If you guys sign up, the people from the greater Pawnee County of Nebraska, like it's a very small.
Right. This is a localized ad.
This is a localized ad. But if you guys go out there and support us and do whatever, I will make sure that I make my next ad read for free for him, and we will do the truck door slam faint dog bark before the ad ends. But Dusty, we're seeing how this goes, and we thank you very much for supporting us as our first ad read copy sponsor.
Yeah. Thank you, Dusty, whoever that is.
It's funny. I have a theory that a lot of the like later 70s, early 80s movies really are just trying to help America get over Vietnam. You know, I like First Blood, Rambo.
First Blood is what came to my mind immediately as soon as you said
Rambo.
that. Yeah, I mean,
you essentially have a string of action heroes who are going back and winning the war in Vietnam. You know, it's like we lost, but we didn't really lose because Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger are out there blowing stuff up. You know, and so you create the impression in the public's mind that actually we kind of kicked ass.
And then kind of in the 90s, you almost see the reverse of that with, you know, Oliver Stone coming out with Born on the 4th of July. Like, and movies started kind of turning to go, oh, okay, yeah, we didn't really, okay, we can start go in the direction of this wasn't the best.
Yeah, that's the fascinating thing, is it kind of is cyclical, where you have the string of films that's like healing, that's almost like the cartoon version where they're trying to heal. And then you have, then after there's so many of those, there's like a decade or so of those. And then you have the people, yes, like you said, like Oliver Stone coming in saying, let me tell you how it really was.
It's almost going from denial all the way to acceptance. It's going through the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance.
Yeah. And I think that happens on a cultural level. You know, I think that's like a shared experience that we're all going through as citizens of a country.
Yeah, and movies then are kind of the, a diary form of what your country wants to express.
That was my feeling on Jaws, was just like, I mean, there's so many things about Jaws to talk about. You could talk about, I mean, we
didn't even mention John Williams. Like, try watching those chase sequences without his music. It's just, okay, we're cutting to a wide shot of a boat. There's now a yellow drum dragging through the water. Now we're cutting to a shot of two guys who look silly spinning a wheel and pointing, and you're just like, what am I watching here? Like, Williams, without that, it's not Jaws. It's nothing.
With the music, I noticed that they don't play the music unless the shark is actually on the screen.
It's there. They don't fake it. They don't fake it.
Yeah. There's a few points where the movie's almost like trying to convince you, like, Brody's worried that the shark is going to attack, and the movie almost like tricks you, like, okay, here comes the shark.
It's the great thing it's with the two kids who are faking it, and the great thing is, it's not even that they don't play the da-na-da. They don't play any music, which leaves you very, oh shit, what's going on?
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I was like, they only play the music when the shark actually is about, is actually there. And I thought that was great.
I can't remember, but I think that was a Williams suggestion. I can't remember though, but I think he was on top of that.
It made me feel, I don't know if this is how people see the music, but it made me feel like the theme was like the theme of the shark. It was like the shark's theme. It's not just the theme of Jaws or the music from Jaws. It's actually specifically the sharks. It's like the Darth Vader theme in Star Wars.
Yeah, he wanted to make it primal. That was his whole thing. When he played to Steven, he went to a piano and he goes, "Oh yeah, I figured out the thing," and he just went bum 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 bum. And Spielberg laughed and said, "Are you kidding?" And then he was like, "No, pay attention." And then he listened again. He goes, "Okay, yeah, this is actually fucking brilliant." It's just this primeval thing that starts and then just builds and builds and builds as it's like a frenzy.
I love the shot when Quint is out on the tip of the orca over the ocean and the
And
yellow
he's
barrels
holding
in
the
the
gun.
background.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they keep cutting back to it, and every time they cut back to it, it gets closer to the barrel and
Closer.
closer to the barrel. But just that frame of just that wide open ocean,
The
and they're
exposure
chasing. Oh,
is to the sunset, and he's all silhouette. Yeah, it's fucking amazing. That's of
yeah,
course. Yeah.
they're chasing the shark, and you just feel that adventure, and just like it's just so simple. It's like what a great frame. Yeah, and also the ending. I gotta say, just what a finale. I mean, like the
The
boat.
seagulls, the seagulls in that shot as they're coming down, as they're kicking, and they're just going, keep kicking.
The shark sinks the boat, and then the boat is going down, and it's like you just get the last little tip of the mast, and he's on top of it, and it's like the last moment, and it's like
Oh,
that's the single
that's the
moment.
shot that you're talking about. I was talking about
Yeah,
the kicking away. I
just
totally
like,
get what
well,
you're
and
saying.
just the whole thing of just, it is like just the perfect blockbuster movie finale where it's like the boat is going down and he's on the very top of the boat and he's about to be submerged in the water, and you kill the shark at the last possible moment, and then you just the simple resolution of them just riding off, into the sunset essentially.
Yeah, when the mast is up and he's got the spear and he's smashing, like he's Ahab up there, fucking going after the fucking white
Yeah,
whale.
yeah.
It's actually the first time that I realized that Quint also gets blown up when the shark explodes.
Yeah, it's actually kind of sure, isn't it?
Quint
Yeah, I
himself
guess he's in there.
becomes the metaphor for, he says, the Hiroshima bomb. I've always heard it referred to as the Hiroshima bomb, irrespective. He becomes the bomb and he explodes. Think about that. He's inside of the shark, which is the metaphor for the bomb, and he explodes. He is the bomb.
There you go. Ticking time bomb.
These are only conversations that Steven Spielberg may have had in the 70s when he was around other people who were getting high and doing cocaine like Martin Scorsese. The title of this episode, Jaws and the Things Spielberg Doesn't Want You to Find Out About. Hashtag World War II.
I think the reason why it connects with us when we were young is because it's just like it's almost like this ultimate childlike adventure. And I think about Spielberg making the movie and about how hard it was. The fact that it was all real. To me, that's the magic and the adventure of movie making, is go out and do it for real. And it's just so cool when you see it like that. To me, this movie felt like it was directed by a child almost. Like Spielberg was able to have the adult maturity, but he had the heart of a child, basically.
Yeah, the heart of a child, the filmmaker's eye of a great filmmaker, but the heart of a child in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's able to go on and do all the movies he does later that are, there's some kind of innocent quality that he has where it's like he's able to make something that he knows what a 12-year-old boy wants to watch.
Oh yeah, Close Encounters is, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I just thought like the adventure of going out on the water, that really struck me too, of like he's just it's like a child. I felt like I was watching like a movie basically made by a kid. Like it's like a movie you make in your backyard, but your backyard happens to be the ocean, and it's
And
like
you have
go out on a
amazing
boat.
actors in your film.
Yeah. And you go out on a boat and basically make like this fun World War II movie, and you get to just blow stuff up, and it just seems so fun and cool. So yeah, I had a lot of fun actually watching it. I liked it more than I thought. Weirdly, I thought I was gonna hate Jaws. I actually thought I would. I thought my prediction was I would think that the shark looks too fake and that the movie was too old and boring.
Interesting.
And sure enough, I kind of in a weird way had like the opposite reaction where I was like, actually, the shark doesn't bother me at all. And yes, maybe it drags a little bit for me in the middle, but then it picks right back up, and then it gets really, really deep and interesting and gives me a lot to like chew on. And so I actually the opposite. My respect for the movie, and even I would say it extends to Spielberg. Whenever I love a movie enough, in this way, it elevates the director for me. So I do think that did happen, where I'm like, okay, I see. Spielberg's got something going on here where he understands how to tap into the cultural consciousness in a way that is truly special. And that you can't give anything but respect.
Yeah, I can't picture cinema without him. I think if we didn't have him, oh man, I don't know. Like you're saying, you know, he kind of might be the reason that we're having movies and they've taken this path. Like without him, it's the butterfly effect. What type of movies would we be watching right now? I have no idea. Think about it to the degree that he's so accessible to so many people. That's why you know, Kubrick, after trying to figure out how to do AI for such a long period of time, said, "Hey, you need to do this. I want this to get out there to the biggest audience. This is your temperament, not mine, and you can take this thing on." Uh, I, I, I mean, he's up there. He directed Jurassic Park and Schindler's List, and they came out in the same friggin' year. Talk about range. This guy is, he's to me, he's, I, I, I don't know how to put it. Like any other director that you're talking about after him has been influenced by him. You know, there's no way to go like, okay, David Fincher, and then go, but without Spielberg, Fincher would be a different person or be a different director.
There was a time, can I tell you something funny? There was a time when I only watched Spielberg or Hitchcock movies in an effort to just absorb and learn the techniques, and you know, I didn't even want the influence of other films because I thought the way those two guys move their camera, the way they introduce information, the way they construct a sequence, it, you know, is so good. I want to learn it, and so I just focused on. There was a period of my life where I just focused on those filmmakers. I never really thought that the movie was that deep, and I think it actually really is. I think it's an incredibly smart movie. Obviously, the filmmaking, obviously the craftsmanship, the creativity, the music, all that is like, you know, so influential, top notch, has changed movies forever. But I never really saw it from like, okay, this like fun Spielberg summer movie to me also has this very interesting thematic kind of uh you know, kind of underbelly to it, no pun intended.
That's good.
So anyway, great pick. Thank you for making the pick.
When your only input was, you know what, we could re-edit it. We could cut out from here and here. And I was like, okay, this is what you're going to give to this podcast. But when we finally got around to talking about the USS Indianapolis, now I'm like, oh, you've heightened my level of my next viewing of Jaws. You will actually give me a new experience to the next time I watch Jaws. And I will start looking at Jaws the way I look at Kubrick films. I will start looking at it going like, what is the mayor? Is he the president of the United States at the time? What is going on? Was he Kennedy? What's happening here? Like there will be a whole.
It's funny you say that because I did know this, you know, Jaws was made before The Shining, but I did feel like there was a weird parallel of like the town
Between
in
him,
Jaws.
yeah.
Yes, and then the hotel in The Shining. It did feel like there was like, you know, run by this sort of bureaucratical figurehead who seems to have, yes, a kind of metaphorical, you know, quality.
This is a whole nother podcast. The Shining and Jaws. The Shining is a metaphor for Jaws, rips off Jaws, influenced by Jaws. Like there could be something interesting here. There's something interesting in there when you're saying he's a conduit or something to Mr. Ullman, who's sitting behind the desk with the American flag. Now you have Jaws as this presidential figure in the town who it's 4th of July again. There's American flags. There's a lot of that potentially going on in the back.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. I thought it did. It did. It had almost like this Shining style of commentary going on. Yeah, with like the town being the metaphor for all of America and, you know, how America is run. You know, I thought it did have a kind of social political commentary to it.
Is the orca the snow cat? How deep are we going here? That's a joke, obviously. I think you contributed more than I'm ever going to contribute to it. I'll give some just call outs to like, I think the narrative thread of these is it's more interesting, like me picking the movie and being able to hear your take on it. I find that more interesting than me just going through everything that I like about the film. I think it's more interesting, like when you pick a film to then potentially see what I would say about it, and you go, I always think that you're going to be looking for these giant, deep metaphors and find some crazy shit within them. I don't know if I'm going to find that with you. What are we doing
No.
next week?
Casino Royale, my pick.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's going to be vastly interesting.
Yeah. What do you think about that one?
Well, I'm definitely going to have to watch that before. I haven't seen it.
Finally, the first movie that you rewatch.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of your choices I'm going to have to rewatch.
Okay.
I think basically all of them. I'm definitely going to have to rewatch all of them. I don't think you picked one where it's to this level of like Shining or Jaws, where it's just like photographic memory of the film, and definitely not within Casino Royale. I watched a lot of the Connerys. I never watched any really of the Roger Moores. I'd watched all of the oh, what's his name? The guy who came after the '90s guy, Thomas Crown. Why am I forgetting his name?
Pierce Brosnan.
Brosnan. I watched all the Brosnan ones back then, but I always watched all of them, as well, surface level on this. I'm gonna have to go. There's a reason Andrew's picking this film. What metaphor to us landing on the moon or something is gonna be within this movie? Like, and you're not just picking it because you're just like, oh, I like it. It's a good one. Like you got some deep shit going on with this one that I'm gonna watch this with my eyes peeled. I'll pull out some Bible verses and start really looking like Leviticus 29:16. I see what's happening over here within this sequence.
Oh my gosh.
It would be really funny. I study the film, I watch it 50 times between next week, and then you come on and you're just like, no, I just really like the cinematography. It's one of those.
I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit, the blade through the credits, a frame they embedded. Light in the distance, persistence poetic. The dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic. No stunt doubles, I tumble through trap fights. The scripts in my soul, I control on my track spikes. Whisper in a reel, I reveal with the black light. The dark is a canvas that I carve with the flashlight. Call it a war cry, a cinematic spark. A puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art. It's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
By the way, Brody saves the day 100%. I mean, Hooper's hiding the whole time.
Yeah, he swims away and you just forget about him.
Yeah, you just forget. And Quint gets killed. And then Brody saves the whole day. And then Hooper pops up and is like, thanks, buddy.
Imagine the random cuts back to Hooper, just there, just looking up, and he's just seeing the boat
they never
being
cut back to
destroyed.
him,
He didn't even try to swim away or go anywhere. He's just down there, just looking up. I mean, he was there the whole time, so
he
would have
found
just
a good hiding spot. I mean, that was it. It was like found the prime spot. Stay here, just ride it out, just wait it out.
The only reason he came up is because he was running out of oxygen. He's just like, I was going to be down here forever.
I mean, classic survival technique. Like,
yeah, we're all descendants of the quick little motherfuckers who got back to the cave, as what Gallagher would say or whatever.